그럼 지금부터 작가님의 이야기를 들어보겠습니다. 큰 박수로 마르텐바스까지 맞이해주시기 바랍니다.
Thank you. I'm here today. I'm very happy to be here on Jeju Island and part of this beautiful exhibition. I will guide you a bit through my works. As I already said in the introduction, it's somewhere between art and design. Don't try to categorize it too much because of it's mostly just conflicting in your mind. I work from my studio in Den Bosch, which is a small town in the south of the Netherlands. I work with a team of 10 employees in a big warehouse. They help me executing the pieces, executing my ideas on a technical level. So that's where it all starts. I will go through some works, and I start with some earlier works like the clay furniture. I studied at a design academy in Eindhoven, and therefore I started with functional objects. So the clay furniture is actually a reaction on the way people normally make furniture, like straight line and symmetry and a certain maturity in the beauty of aesthetics. But what I missed was the spontaneity that children sometimes can have in their drawings or in when they make a clay sculpture. There's some purity in it which we lose once we grow up. And I thought, like, I want to make a grown-up piece of furniture which you actually can use, but made as if it was made by a child. And that became a whole series of works, also with a collection of ventilators. It's also, of course, fighting against the windmills, like almost a Don Quixote. Like, you don't want to grow up, you want to stay young, and you want to be a child forever. So that's why I like this installation, which I did for another museum, of the clay furniture. But it's a much wider collection of all kinds of pieces. Currently I'm actually making a clay piano even, but that's not ready yet, so it's not in the presentation. Closperity is actually a successor of the clay furniture, because of there I started with a small drawing, but in a very illogical way. This is the way how children would draw, but as an adult you would never draw a cabinet like that anymore with the legs in the middle or so top heavy like that one. Because as an adult, you know this is not going to work. It will tip over because of its top heavy. But I challenged the physics and I made it actually stand on its own feet. So this is a kind of also a twist in your mind, like, hey, logically you think like this is not possible, and it's so childish. So it still has the aesthetics of a childish and pure aesthetics, but it has the execution of an adult. And it challenges actually the logic way of thinking that we are so used to that we are not even aware of anymore. And the smoke furniture, this is actually my graduation work at the Design Academy. This is a very famous piece by another Dutch designer called Rietveld, the zigzag chair. And what I thought, like, if you have all those iconic pieces, all those beautiful pieces with which I was educated, they are kind of stuck in time. They don't ever change because of this is designed by Rietveld, this will never change anymore. But I decided to actually do the opposite of keeping it as it was. I burned the piece, and after that I preserved it, and I was celebrating the imperfections of it. And the same I did also with other pieces as well, also other design classics, but also this Steinway grand piano, which is still to be able to be played, so there can be music out of the burned musical instrument. Later, my work starts to be more and more conceptual and less functional, but still this is kind of in the verge between the two, between functional and conceptual, because of this is actually a concept which will take literally ages, centuries even. Like, the planning is to make it grow in 200 years. It's a kind of a reverse way of thinking. Instead of thinking like, I want to make something as efficient as possible, or as easy as possible, or as fast as possible, I thought, like, what is the slowest way in which I can produce a chair? And I thought, like, if a tree grows the chair gradually over the years, then I don't even have the chance to see it in real life because I will not survive it. So it starts with a young chair and it presses slowly into the mold, which is the negative of a chair. And in the end, the mold is shaped in such a way that if in the end you take away the mold, you create a chair. But you have to wait for 200 years, obviously, to see what came out of that. And if anything goes wrong along the way, there's a disease, or if a thunderstruck comes into it, then you have to start all over again. The only difference is now that would take another century or something. Second nature is actually the idea of that we are living in a digitalized world. We know the whole world already on our screen of our iPhone. I'm here for the first time on Jeju Island, but of course I knew already what it looked like because I've seen it digitally. The other way around, the first thing that I do once I'm here on Jeju Island is taking pictures and digitalize what I see. So there's this kind of new in-between form between reality and virtual images, and that's the digital world. So I actually recreated a waterfall by moving water, by films of moving waterfalls. So I'm recreating nature, and that's why it's also called second nature. So a very natural, iconic, beautiful piece is recreated in digital screens. It's in my hometown, Utrecht. It was a question from the library. The library there is in a monumental, iconic building of Utrecht, a brick building, and it's in the center of the city. And the square on which they are is a very busy square. It's full of commercials and festivals and like the real day-to-day fast economy is there. Whereas the building itself is a library. So the library is the heritage of everything that has been thought about through the years, all the poetry, all the books that are written. So there's a contrast between the more contemplative feeling of a library versus that fast economy in front of the library. So I wanted to make that contrast with the work that I created, which is a neon sign. Actually, as Las Vegas exploded in the library, but the signs are not showing things about casinos or bars, but the meaning of the words are actually Latin words, are intellectual words, are famous authors, it's poetry. Like, so there's the same contrast between the intellectual and more concentrated word of the library versus the fast economy of the square in front of it. Crescendo, that's a recent work which I did for my gallery in Amsterdam, in which musical instruments were the theme. Crescendo, everybody who plays music knows that the word crescendo means vivid and joyful, whereas the exhibition for me was about the contrast between having a wish, having a desire, as an artist or as a human being, and being restricted within the reality that you are. Like sometimes things aren't as easy as that you wished for, or sometimes there are problems on the way, practical problems. So those pianos were hanging like as if they were almost in a butchery as a product. The actual life of the vividness of the piano was sucked out of it. The trumpets, the same, like once they could play, they would be the trumpet again. So there's hope, but at this moment they are out of the energy. Or this is like a blister packaging of a commercial product. The instruments are being packed in that packaging and smashed against the wall. This is a complete orchestra, a sinfonia orchestra with 56 instruments. So 10 violins, the flutes, 6 cellos. All the instruments of a complete orchestra are represented, but in the shape of a ball. So it's like they are being imploded, like they are, instead of being extrovert, they are being introvert. Then I get to real time, and that's actually the reason why I'm here today. But I will bring you back to the origin of real time, which started with in 2009 already actually. This is one of the first clocks that I made. Real time is a concept in which I film people who are indicating the time for 12 hours. It's a film, but it also works as a clock. In this case, those two people are sweeping, they're filmed from above and sweeping the hands of the clock. So they're sweeping the dust and doing that around in circles and circles and circles. But you get the idea, of course. It's 10 past 10 now, and they will keep on going until they made all the 12 hours. This was the starting point in which I thought like time is something that passes, and dust is almost the symbol of the passing of time. So by sweeping that dust in circles, like you play with the element of time in a different way. The circular movement also has a kind of an endless movement, just like the dust that keeps on coming. And the fact that two workers are actually doing, it's also kind of work, like you really, it's every day, start a new day, you start again to wipe the dust and to move forward. And in the meantime, you are literally part of the time. And that brings me to the piece that I made for the exhibition here, We Such Fragile Beings. But I will show you the making of that one, and you can see a little bit how we do that behind the scenes. So this clock is called The Artist, and it's a self-portrait. So it visualizes me locked in my atelier making time. And that's also a little bit like how I am as an artist, or how all the artists are, or probably how all people are. Like, you always try to be ahead of time, you always try to represent the time you're in. But the time is also moving forward, so you also can erase it right after the minute you did it. You can erase that minute and make the new one. An artwork is always a bit behind of time. And literally now I'm painting the hands of the clock, but the hands also need to be erased in order to make the next one. And you hear the beeps, that's the indicating of when the minute is over. And then the conveyor belt clock, which is a commission for the Podomuseum, so that's really unique. A museum that asks me to make a piece especially for the museum. I thought about we such fragile beings, the fact that minutes are always going, like the moment that you put the minute on, it's already gone. And actually, we are all like that. We are here for so many years on this planet, and then we're gone. So we are here and we are gone. And that's also with the conveyor belt, in which all the times when the minute is made, it falls into the box. So it's kind of a production. It's about efficiency. It's a typical symbol of the Industrial Revolution. It's also a little bit a take to Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times, in which he's totally stuck in a conveyor belt. It's about modern times and about making time and about being a human being who's trying to make sense of their own life, to give meaning to your own life, and also with a twist of the relativity of it. And I also show you the making of this one. You come in and you start your job, and the other ones already were there, and the boxes. And as you can see in the exhibition, it's in two pieces. It's the main clock and the 4 surveillance cameras which show it from other angles, as if they are being viewed with surveillance cameras in their factory hall. And I like that shot in which the clocks literally fall off the track. Thank you very much. What I like about furniture is that it's kind of a recognizable shape. So if I take the clay chair, you know how a normal chair looks like. So once I change it by making it in clay, then I refer to this archetypical form. And that's what helps me in telling my story. That's why I use design. But if that's not necessary, like when I make a waterfall, then I just make a waterfall and it's not functional at all anymore. It just depends what do I want to express, how do I express it, and I like to make accessible works. I like you to understand what you see straight away and that the second layer comes later. Like you see it, you understand what you see, it's not an abstract artwork, and after that you think like the other meanings that you can put in it. However, what I like is sometimes that the functionality adds something to the artistic value. For instance, the clocks, what I really find it very important that they are actually in time, that if you look at your actual time, that it's sync with the film. If that wouldn't be the case, it would lose artistic value for me. Of course, it's not a more functional clock, because if you want to know the time, you still watch your phone or your own watch. But still, I think it's important to subconsciously know, like, if this is sync, then this is a 12-hour movie, and that's the whole performance in it. And the fact that it is only possible to make if you do that for 12 hours adds artistic value to it. In chronological order, it was first the burned furniture and then the clay furniture. So it's almost like sometimes you need to burn the land to be fertile for the next thing to grow. So there's the contrast between burning one and then new shapes can come up. So it feels like I had to kind of not look up to all those icons anymore, but kind of to make it my own and dare to fight with them. It's not that I had any fear of doing it, because in the end it's a technique and I had it in control, and I liked to see what was happening. And of course I did not, my first piece that I ever did was not the zigzag chair by Rietveld, obviously. But for me it's about beauty and about like how we see things and what is the value of keeping it as you know it or changing what you know, and what is the beauty of that. So it's not something negative in that way. People interpret it sometimes as something negative, like you burn the classics. But for me it was like just a process to go through. Just, it's also not negative to eat something. You appreciate what you're eating, but you need it to, and you burn it to move forward. So I use it to move forward, and it's a necessary action, I think. There is not so much of a necessary, for me it doesn't feel like a shift that I use myself. I just always look at what I want to make, and then I do whatever is needed to do that. So if I need 1,000 people, then I am going to arrange 1,000 people. If I need neon lights, then I'm going to arrange neon lights. So for me it doesn't really feel like a shift, but it's just a natural evolvement of my way of working. And in the case that I use myself, I like, well, first of all, I'm always there and I'm very reliable, and I can count on myself, so I don't have difficulties to arrange anyone. And also it's nice to kind of tell a story about something, about an artist, for instance, like, and making it kind of a self-portrait. It's for me just a natural outcome of what I want to say at that very moment. It's part of the work is production, and part of it is creation of new works. And then it helps if once you developed something new, that you can also repeat it, because simply the development of something, it's very time consuming, and my pieces are always very limited. So it helps if I can repeat something. Especially since I always work in another material, as I said before, and as you could see, like I work in bronze or in neons or in video or in wood or in burned wood or in resins. It helps to kind of have a few anchor points which I can repeat. I also like to dig deeper into the works that I develop. There are new ideas coming from when you have something, you can make it better, or you can think of another concept which is based on the same technique, like the 12 hours movie. Like with the conveyor belt is using the same technique, the same cameraman and everything. So I can use what I already know, but I can tell a new story. So it also helps, and it also makes the concept better and better, and you can make which are better than the first one. There's a whole team where even when I was working on my own as the artist, a team of people is helping me and assisting me and also keeping me sharp. Like they're exactly saying like the big hand has to go to the 12 and the other one has to go to the 4, and I just blindly do what they say. So the only thing I need to do is doing that. So it's almost a meditation. The funny thing is I'm totally not aware of what time it is once I'm in the clock. That's the only moment in the year that I don't know what time it is. The video of when the thousands of people were involved, that was an extra challenge to keep them sharp and motivated. So we had a whole side program as well. Like if people could take a break, they could do yoga, and they could play music, and they could do other performances. So there was a lot to do behind the scenes to keep them motivated, because to keep such a big group motivated is even harder than only keep myself motivated. And you could see it also in the film, like there was this guy with the drums and the dancing. That was the start up of the day, like to get everybody excited. So that was a job in itself to get everybody involved and engaged to make it happen. Well, as I said, like it's always a different different way of working, of course. Like the technique is always different, and it also is different. Like if it's totally a new concept, which I never did before, or if it's moving forward on something that I already know, like if it's another clay piece or another video, then I already know the basics. But if I even don't know that, then first I think like, what do I want to make? How? So I have an idea, I have a picture in my mind, like what I want to create. And then I look like, how am I going to create this? So I'm going to do research about like the technique and also some practical things like the costs of it. And then I'm going to talk with experts to see if I can make it. And then I'm having my team, what I said, like I have all my workers who help me with my work. They're going to make tryouts together with them. I'm looking like, okay, shall we try to see if the principle, what I have in mind, if it has a chance that it actually also works. So you just try, and then if it works, then you go a step further. And like that, step by step, something comes. In a quite early stage, I want to know whether or not it has a chance. So I already create quite a good prototype just to make a very first one. And then once I see that working, then I think like, okay, now we can fill in the rest, because of then I already have my anchor point, I have my vision in my head, I have the sample in front of me. Well, then we need to work towards that. And then depending on the material, like we are making it. Often the trick is like, it looks easy, it should also look easy, like the clay furniture looks like as if a child just made it in 5 minutes. But to make it look that easy, of course, it's a very hard process. Same with the films, like very hard to film it for 12 hours, but also the editing work after that, and to make it into a working clock is even more complicated, because we had to write special computer programs to make it in a video that's actually synced with the real time, you know, like it has to go around, and it should not lose any time between the end of the film and the beginning of the film, so it needs to be synced and all that. It's a very complicated thing which comes after that, so it's a whole train of actions which needs to be aligned and which need to go well from A to Z. I like to inspire people, and I like to compose an exhibition in which something can happen which you cannot really explain in your mind, but you feel like you've been lifted up a little bit, or you've been inspired, or you evokes something inside of you. When I make the best it works when I make an exhibition, a solo exhibition, in which I have the pieces and I put them in a certain order, and so I have to create the individual pieces, and that's always difficult, and I have sleepless nights, and I don't know if it comes out well, and I'm worried, and all that, so that's not nice. Then the execution, it's always more expensive, and it always takes longer, and there are always frustrations, also not nice. But once it's there, and once it's all coming together, and I see that it has the effect that it should have, then I think like that's the happiest moment that I have as an artist. AI is a technique that I use functionally, so to say, in my emails or that kind of things. I'm not necessarily interested in using it in my artworks, but I also don't exclude it. But I never start from a technique. I never think like, ooh, this is bronze, I want to make something in bronze. No, I have a picture of something, and then I use bronze for that. So I can imagine that I would use AI, but then it would come from a conceptual point of view. And then I would use it. I would never use it, for instance, in my films, because of like those films are called real time because of they are real films of what happens. But if there's a concept, if I want to say something, think of something in which I talk about AI, using AI in a different way, in an artistic way, but I don't know yet what. I don't have any plans. Sometimes I use cliches to bring my message across. Everybody knows how a waterfall looks like, so a digital waterfall, it's the language that you speak. So if you talk in a language, it helps if there's a translator, literally now, you know, like talk in a language that even a translator doesn't understand, and you would not understand it. So that's why I use some things which are recognizable, and then I do something with it, which is kind of the translator, and then the message comes to you. So that's why I use iconic works like a clock. Everybody knows how a clock looks, but this clock is a step different than the clock that we know. So I like to lean on what we know to move forward. And imperfection, I think like everything is imperfect in the end. Also when I listen to live music, I like it when somebody plays a wrong note, that everybody goes into that note in order to solve the problem, you know, and that makes it human, and that makes it different from a computer and different from AI, if you want. So I like to see the imperfections in that sense and celebrate it rather than to eliminate it. It doesn't make sense, or you feel like, why am I doing this, or so in the end, like everything goes away. But I did not necessarily mean it to put that meaning in it, but I really like that you see it like that. And that's also why I like to make works in which you can interpret it in your own way. I've been talking now for an hour about my work, but actually I want the work to speak for itself, because everybody has their own interpretation in it. And sometimes I listen to somebody else's interpretation, like yours, and I think like, hey, that makes actually sense. That's I didn't think of it myself, but it's a beautiful interpretation. So sometimes I don't know the meaning of my own work, but if I hear others, then I think like, oh yeah, that's the meaning of my work. So it sometimes helps if others talk about my work, and I just do the physical part, and the others give me the meaning. Thank you very much. Should I put your name on it?
Alicia?
I don't know. Alicia. Okay, there you go. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, there you go. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, very good. Okay. Yeah, sure. Can somebody take a picture?